And I am going to read your bio. Marissa Sertich Velie is the executive director of the Retail Bakers of America, serving since 2018. A graduate of the Culinary Institute of America in Baking and Pastry Arts, she also holds a master's in food studies from NYU, where she focused on culture and gender in professional kitchens. Feely began her career with James Beard award-winning chef Joanne Chang at Flour Bakery in Boston. She later refined her skills as a pastry chef at the Castle on the Hudson and the Roundhouse at Beacon Falls, and more recently, as a food writer and adjunct professor specializing in baking technology and gastronomy. Her work has appeared in Serious Eats, the Huffington Post, and other publications, earning her the Julia Child Foundation Writing Fellowship, and her research is featured in NYU Chair Krishnendu Ray's book, The Ethnic Restaurateur. Velie currently lives and works just outside of Cleveland, Ohio, with her two daughters, aged 7 and 9.
Thank you, Billy. I'm really excited to be here, everyone. I think this is an amazing um, support group. So, as Billy said, I'm the Retail Bakers of America. My own career journey was anything but like a straight line. I didn't even know that the path I'm currently on existed when I first started out. I began my career like working in bakeries and hotels, and I really loved it. But like a lot of parents in the industry, I quickly realized how challenging it is to balance a career in food with family life. So even before I had my first daughter, who's now approaching 10 years old, I knew I'd need to make some sort of change for myself if I wanted a schedule that was a little more predictable. And that's actually what led me to grad school in the first place. So I went back specifically with the intention of creating a career alternative that would give me a little more flexibility once I had kids that was still somewhere in the baking world. So from there, I transitioned out of the traditional baking world and into teaching, which eventually led me to the job that I'm in now at the Retail Bakers of America. So it's funny how life works sometimes. I never imagined that this is where I would end up, but here I am. But now I get to stay connected with the baking community that I love while helping kind of support that industry and those individuals, bakery owners, and things like that. Um, so one of the biggest hurdles lately in sustaining my own mental health in the industry, um, very honestly, one of the biggest hurdles that I've had recently is dealing with a lot of imposter syndrome. Being a chef or baker, I think is one of those things that becomes very intertwined with your identity. And it's not just what you do, it's a lot of who you are. And there's this unspoken idea that your value is somehow tied to your time in the kitchen or the bake shop. And when that part of your life changes, it can kind of leave you questioning, who am I now? So when I stepped away from being in the kitchen day to day, I found myself in this really weird space of uncertainty. And now I spend my days talking to bakers and bakery owners and facilitating like CMB, the Certified Master Baker exams, and advocating for this craft that I love. But sometimes I look around and I think, I don't even know if I could do this anymore when I look at these exams and things that I facilitate. And it's this really strange feeling like I'm still a part of the baking world, but in a different way. And that different way sometimes makes me wonder if I still belong. And it's this very strange feeling. And around the same time I stepped away from the kitchen, I also had my daughter. And I think instinctively I tried to kind of fill the void that was left by bakery life and kind of leaned into being a mom more. Uh, but even that was complicated. But I love being a mom. Motherhood's amazing, but it's also all consuming in a very completely different way. So I went from being hyper focused on being a baker to being completely immersed in this new role that didn't come with the same sort of structure or the same feedback or any feedback at all. So while being a mom gave me a new sense of purpose, it didn't like fully answer the question like, who the heck am I outside of these roles? Motherhood, baker, who am I? And I think that's what makes imposter syndrome so very tricky is it creeps in when you're evolving, and especially I think as a woman, making you feel like you don't quite belong in a space you're stepping into. it's so easy to look at others and think that they have it all figured out, while you're still trying to kind of find your footing in what you're doing. So, um, one of the prompts we were kind of asked to kind of think about was a time maybe I'd hit rock bottom. And so I'm a single parent with two very amazing daughters, ages 7 and 9, almost 10 now. And getting to this point where I can honestly say I'm extraordinarily happy in my day-to-day life has been a real journey. But I had to really fight to get to this place. And it was just prior to asking for my divorce that I really hit rock bottom. And there's so much, that went on behind the scenes that no one here needs to know all the details of the private struggles between me and my co-parent. But I will say that during my lowest points, the hardest part was really just keeping everything going, maintaining work, showing up as a parent, and acting like everything was fine when inside it kind of felt like a dumpster fire, right? Like everything was falling apart. And you start to question if you're making the right choices. Um, but at the same time, like lunches still need to be packed and work events still need to be planned and the cat needs to be fed. And you're the only one doing it all. So sometimes I was just like, well, what if I just stopped? Like, what would happen? Um, and it really takes, I think, a certain amount of grit to push through those moments, and also on the flip side like a lot of grace. And that's something I had to really learn along the way, is giving myself permission to not be perfect, not have it all figured out, to be super tired, and to really just take it one day at a time. It was definitely a battle, but it was a battle worth fighting, I think. I know, because deep down, I knew the hard part wouldn't last forever. And giving myself grace in those moments was really important and ultimately kind of got me through. And also like allowing myself like an occasional nap, you know. Um, but this webinar actually catches me, I think, at a really crazy time in my life where I honestly, I don't think I've ever been happier in my grown-up life. And so for anyone out there going through a time that feels like they hit rock bottom, um, there, there can be happiness ahead that you've never fathomed, and to keep going. Um, and I think it's easy to say, like, just have grit and give yourself grace, and like there will be happiness. But um, honestly, I think there were also real intentional actions I took that helped me get through, and some also less intentional. And one of the biggest things for me, I think, was reaching out to friends and peers. So like when I had kids, when the kids, and especially initially when they go to their dad's house, I made a point to like reconnect with people that I valued, or some people that were new in my life, and make those connections. Motherhood, parenting in general, if you're a primary caregiver, can be very isolating. And also, I've been working remotely for the past 7 years, and I realized, I'd spent years being completely immersed in the role of motherhood or working from my computer. So I started making space to reconnect with the world outside of those things. And that was really important. And this one's like a little weird, but another a telltale sign, I think, of that I was emotionally struggling. And I've seen this pattern now in the past, as I start like collecting like random things to do to fill time, like collecting craft kits, right? Like I had a lot of stuff arriving at my house. Like one week it was like a mini crochet kit, and then it was like I took a glass blowing class, and like I had a word burning kit, and half of these things I had never touched. But I was like desperate to fill empty time. And you know what? Like I think sometimes that's okay. I think sometimes it's important like to sit in your stillness, but I think other times I found productive distraction very healing. Um, and then lastly, another thing that helped me was shifting how I talk to myself during these times. I started thinking of myself as if I were my own kid. And a big part of this is like going to therapy as well. I started going to therapy a few years prior to my divorce. So I've been talking to someone regularly since 2020. And this is something my therapist would ask is, if I were your daughter, if you were your daughter, like what would you tell yourself right now? Because that internal voice in your head can be super brutal sometimes, and it's really easy to be critical or harsh with yourself. But I wouldn't talk to my daughter that way, so I started kind of keeping that inner voice, just being aware of it, and keeping it in check. Like, what would I tell her if she were in this situation? And slowly, kind of that awareness, um, I was able to grant myself a little more kindness and grace along the way. Um, so uh, things feel really good right now, but I still, to kind of maintain this good, right? Because it's one thing to get there, but then it's another thing, I think, to maintain it. So even though things feel really good right now, I've made a point to still talk to my therapist regularly, because it's funny, I think, how the little things that cause you stress can sneak up on you. So what starts as something small can kind of quietly build and then feel completely overwhelming, at least for me. Um, so that's why I've learned how important it is to talk about the small things before they become too big. And it's not just about talking to my therapist, but I try to practice that same kind of openness with my kids, with my partner too. And it's about creating the habit of just talking through things, big or small, so nothing festers and becomes overwhelming, hopefully. Um, and at this point, I feel like I'm proud that I feel pretty resilient. Um, I've learned a lot over the past few years. Um, and I know I've come out on the other side of some really difficult situations, especially when it comes to navigating things like emotional abuse. Um, and that experience really taught me how to recognize unhealthy communication patterns in others as well, how to trust my instincts, and how to protect my own emotional well being. And because of that, I feel more confident that if something hard presents itself, and it probably will because, it's life. So if something very challenging presents itself again, I have the emotional tool belt to kind of to get through it, and not feel as shaken by uncertainty anymore because um, through this growth, I've developed more trust in myself now, and I feel like I can handle pretty much whatever comes next, whatever it might be, and I feel like I also fully deserve this happiness that I'm experiencing currently in life. So that's that's me. So that's what I've got for you. So I'd love to speak with you all. If you have any thoughts or questions